25. Most awful personalities in gospel legends. What if you found out that some of gospel music's most beloved legends, voices you grew up hearing in church, artists who shaped entire generations, were hiding personalities so shocking you'd never look at them the same way again? On stage, they sounded righteous, powerful, and full of grace. But behind the scenes, their tempers, egos, and messy attitudes painted a completely different picture. Broken friendships, explosive feuds, out-of-control pride. Some of these stories were whispered in hallways, others buried to protect reputations, and a few were so unbelievable they almost felt like rumors. Get ready, because once you hear these stories, you'll never forget them. 25. Ernest Pugh. Ernest Pugh may have a powerful voice, but the personality behind that voice has sparked some of the loudest storms in modern gospel circles. When fans think of his music, they picture smooth vocals and soaring church classics. But behind the spotlight, Ernest has been at the center of messy disputes, tense arguments, and public feuds that pushed him into the headlines for all the wrong reasons. It all became harder to ignore when he clashed with church leaders over contracts, money, and broken promises. Each argument seemed to grow bigger than the last, turning private disagreements into public battles that spread across social media and gospel blogs. His calm stage presence clashed completely with the fiery personality insiders claimed they saw up close, and those stories painted a picture far different from the polished image audiences knew. These conflicts didn't just stir drama. They reshaped how many viewed him, giving his already strong reputation an edge that made people talk long after the music stopped. 24. Vanessa Bell Armstrong. Vanessa Bell Armstrong built a career on strength, passion, and powerhouse vocals, but her personality behind the scenes often carried a sharpness that turned simple disagreements into full-blown battles. Throughout her journey in gospel music, she faced repeated clashes with producers, managers, and record labels that accused her of being impossible to control. Some called her bold, others called her difficult, and her fiery attitude became almost as famous as her voice. There were moments when her confidence pushed her forward, but there were also times when it pushed people away. Stories of heated studio sessions, arguments over creative direction, and tense business meetings followed her from one label to another. Even fans began to notice the pattern as rumors surfaced about her unwillingness to compromise with anyone, no matter who they were. These conflicts shaped her public image, creating a mix of admiration and frustration that made her one of the most talked-about gospel legends whenever behind-the-scenes drama surfaced. 23. The Clark Sisters. The Clark Sisters changed gospel music forever, but their rise to greatness came with a whirlwind of personality clashes that fans still talk about. On stage, they blended their voices like angels, yet offstage, their strong personalities often collided in ways that pushed their family bond to its limit. For years, people in the industry whispered about arguments during rehearsals, creative disagreements, and emotional moments that spilled out behind closed doors. Each sister carried her own powerful identity, and when those identities clashed, the tension could light up an entire room. Their relationship with their late mother, Mattie Moss Clark, added even more pressure, as her strict leadership style created both discipline and friction. Family loyalty held them together, but hurt feelings and long silences kept showing up again and again. Even during their most successful seasons, these storms followed them, shaping how fans viewed the group. Their talent was undeniable, but their behind-the-scenes drama became an unforgettable part of their story, proving that even gospel legends can struggle with personalities too big to stay quiet. 22. Rance Allen. Rance Allen was known for a voice that shook churches, but many people close to him claimed his personality could shake a room just as strongly. His talent put him in a league of his own, yet his temper and stubbornness often created tension with musicians, producers, and choir members who worked with him. Stories spread across the industry about moments when things became heated during recording sessions, especially when he felt others were not matching his high standards. His passion for excellence was real, but that same passion sometimes turned into frustration, creating an atmosphere that many found difficult to handle. Even though he inspired countless younger artists, some said they walked away from collaborations because the pressure felt overwhelming. Rance carried himself with confidence, but that confidence sometimes came across as harsh and demanding. These traits shaped his legacy behind the scenes, giving him a reputation for being both brilliant and challenging, a combination that kept his name at the center of many gospel conversations. 21. Mavis Staples. Mavis Staples is loved for her rich voice and timeless spirit, yet her career has seen its share of heated conflicts that reveal a tougher side many fans never saw. Growing up in the Staple Singers, she learned early how to survive the rough edges of the music world, and that survival mindset sometimes turned into sharp interactions during stressful moments. People who worked with her talked about clashes over creative direction, last-minute changes, and disagreements about how her music should evolve. Her personality carried a mix of softness and steel, and that steel often showed up when she felt someone was pushing her too far. At times, her determination led to internal band fights that affected tours and recording sessions. Even with her warm public image, her strong will made her a force that could intimidate collaborators who weren't prepared to keep up. These behind-the-scenes conflicts became part of her long journey, shaping her reputation as both an icon and a fighter within the gospel-rooted world. 20. Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson is remembered as one of the greatest gospel voices in history, but the stories shared by fellow musicians and workers reveal a personality far more intense than most fans imagined. Her perfectionism made her extraordinary, yet it also created moments when she demanded absolute control over every detail. Musicians who toured with her talked about strict rules, sharp instructions, and disagreements that sometimes ended careers. She protected her image fiercely, and that protection often turned into arguments when anyone challenged her decisions. Mahalia carried herself with dignity, but that dignity came with a toughness that few people dared to push against. Even promoters admitted she could be incredibly difficult when things were not exactly how she wanted. Her powerful presence filled every room she entered, and that presence could quickly shift from inspiring to overwhelming depending on the situation. These behind-the-curtain truths shaped the complex personality that followed her through her remarkable journey. 19. Clara Ward. Clara Ward helped redefine gospel performance, yet her life offstage was filled with turmoil, control battles, and emotional strain that created major personality conflicts. Her family, especially her mother Gertrude, ran her career with an iron grip, and that grip created years of tension within the Ward singers. Members of the group complained about unfair treatment, difficult rules, and harsh decision-making that often pushed singers to leave in frustration. Clara herself, caught between her talent and her mother's control, developed a tough shell that made her appear cold and distant to many around her. Arguments became routine, business fights broke the group apart, and the bitterness that spread behind the scenes became one of the most talked-about dramas in gospel history. Her reserved yet stern personality made collaboration difficult, and even during her highest peaks, the atmosphere around her stayed tense. These conflicts followed her through her entire career, giving her story a dramatic edge that fans still remember. 18. Sam Cooke. Before Sam Cooke became a soul superstar, he was a gospel celebrity with the Soul Stirrers, and even then, his personality carried a mix of charm, ego, and rebellion that stirred trouble everywhere he went. His incredible voice made him the group's shining star, but his confidence often pushed him to break rules, challenge leaders, and make decisions that caused tension within the gospel community. Many older members complained that he acted bigger than the group, while others felt he used his gospel fame as a stepping stone without respecting the tradition. He often clashed with management, pushing for freedom, money, and control. Long before gospel artists were known to demand such things, his nightlife habits, romantic scandals, and risky behavior created disbelief among traditional church audiences who expected purity from gospel singers. These conflicts shaped his early image, turning him into one of the most complicated personalities ever to rise from gospel roots. 17. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin may be known as the Queen of Soul, but long before her rise in mainstream music, she carried a gospel personality that was powerful, commanding, and often impossible to challenge. People who worked with her described a woman who expected excellence at all times and refused to let anyone stand in her way. Her confidence helped her conquer the music world, yet that same confidence sparked countless clashes behind the scenes. Aretha demanded respect from everyone around her, and when she felt someone wasn't giving it, her sharpness cut through the room like a blade. Musicians whispered about sudden mood shifts, intense disagreements, and moments when she shut down entire sessions if something didn't feel right. Even family members admitted she held grudges and protected her feelings with walls no one could break through. These fiery traits shaped the woman she became, giving her a legacy filled with both unmatched talent and unforgettable tension. 16. Thomas A. Dorsey. Thomas A. Dorsey is known as the father of modern gospel music, but that title did not come quietly. His personality was bold, stubborn, and completely unwilling to bend for anyone. When he first mixed blues with gospel, church leaders attacked him, calling his music worldly and disrespectful. Instead of backing down, Dorsey pushed harder, arguing with pastors, choirs, and entire congregations who refused to accept his sound. Many described him as a man who refused to hear the word no, and that determination sometimes turned into arguments that lasted for years. His meetings were known for loud debates, slammed doors, and moments when he walked out rather than compromise. Even those who admired him said working with him felt like standing in front of a storm, powerful, inspiring, but unpredictable. His groundbreaking work changed gospel forever, yet the personality behind it often made him one of the hardest men to collaborate with in the entire industry. 15. Vickie Winans. Vickie Winans brought joy to millions with her bright spirit and powerful vocals. But the world behind the curtain told a completely different story. Her career was marked by label wars, business conflicts, and a long list of disagreements that shaped her reputation as one of the toughest personalities in gospel. Producers complained about sudden demands, emotional outbursts, and last-minute changes that caused chaos during recording sessions. Her strong personality helped her survive in a cutthroat industry, yet it also pushed people away when the pressure grew too heavy. Family drama added even more fuel, pulling her into feuds that spread across the gospel community. Those who worked closely with her described a woman who could shift from warm and funny to sharp and intense in a heartbeat. These contradictions made her fascinating, unpredictable, and unforgettable, turning her story into one of the most dramatic in gospel history. 14. Dietrich Haddon. Dietrich Haddon's rise in gospel music came with raw emotion, passion, and a personality so explosive that it often overshadowed his talent. His personal life became headline material after divorce drama, cheating accusations, and church conflicts that broke his public image into pieces. Instead of staying quiet, Dietrich fought back loudly, publicly, and unapologetically, creating a trail of arguments and confrontations that kept his name in constant conversation. People around him said he carried a mix of brilliance and chaos that made working with him feel like stepping into a storm. His temper flared during disagreements, and he often responded to criticism with fiery statements that only stirred more controversy. Even when he tried to rebuild his reputation, the emotional battles around him never truly faded. His personality, bold and unpredictable, became as much a part of his legacy as his music. 13. Tamela Mann. Tamela Mann's gentle public image made fans adore her. But people inside the industry discovered a personality far more complex than the soft smile she showed on stage. Behind closed doors, Tamela carried a strong and protective energy that sometimes clashed with producers, managers, and directors who pushed too hard. She was known for standing her ground, shutting down projects she felt didn't respect her vision, and speaking up even when others expected silence. These moments created quiet but serious conflicts that followed her through tours, film sets, and studio sessions. Her loyalty to her husband and creative partner David Mann added another layer, leading to disagreements when outsiders tried to influence her decisions. Although her disputes rarely became public scandals, insiders described a woman who would not back down once her mind was set. That firmness shaped her reputation as both a sweetheart and a force who could turn a peaceful day into a tense battlefield if pushed too far. 12. Shirley Caesar. Shirley Caesar's legacy stands tall, but the personality behind that legacy has sparked stories that followed her for decades. Colleagues often described her as a woman who demanded total control over every detail, from stage cues to choir decisions. Her drive to stay on top made her a legend, yet it also created an atmosphere where arguments could break out over the smallest things. Musicians talked about her sharp corrections, sudden mood changes, and moments when practice sessions stopped because she wasn't satisfied. Her leadership in church settings added even more weight, and some people admitted they felt intimidated by her strong presence. Shirley's determination helped her accomplish things few gospel artists ever reached, but it came with tension that shaped nearly every part of her journey. Even close friends said she lived with a seriousness that left little room for mistakes. These stories painted a picture of a woman whose power came not only from her voice, but from a personality bold enough to dominate any room she entered. 11. James Cleveland. James Cleveland is often called the King of Gospel. Yet the world behind his music was filled with fear, whispers, and explosive disagreements. His choirs adored his genius, but many also admitted he could be harsh, distant, and quick to anger when things didn't unfold his way. Stories spread of singers being removed from groups without warning and musicians being scolded for the smallest errors. His leadership style demanded perfection, and anyone who failed to meet that expectation felt the full weight of his personality. People who worked under him said he carried an emotional heaviness that spilled into rehearsals, creating tension that could silence an entire room. His charm made him unforgettable, but his strictness made him one of the most intimidating figures in gospel history. These powerful, complicated traits gave his legacy both beauty and shadows, revealing a man whose personality shaped gospel music as much as his voice did. 10. Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin changed the sound of gospel forever, but his emotional battles and fiery personality became just as famous as his music. He opened up about anger issues, family problems, and moments when he lost control, and those admissions matched the stories people in the industry shared for years. Kirk often clashed with choir members, producers, and label executives who didn't understand his fast, intense creative style. His temper showed during disagreements, leading to sudden blow-ups that made people step back. The drama with his eldest son became one of the most public conflicts in gospel history, and his recorded outburst spread everywhere. Even those who supported him said working with him meant stepping into a world filled with passion, pressure, and unpredictability. His talent was undeniable, but the emotional fire inside him shaped a personality that carried both brilliance and turbulence, turning him into one of the most talked-about figures of modern gospel. 9. Leandria Johnson. Leandria Johnson's journey through gospel music has been marked by breathtaking talent and a personality so bold that it shattered traditional expectations. She spoke openly about her struggles with alcohol, anger, and church frustration, but insiders said those struggles often exploded into heated arguments and confrontations. Her fiery attitude led to beefs with pastors, fans, and even industry leaders who tried to guide her. She pushed back loudly, saying things others were too scared to say, and that unfiltered honesty made her both admired and criticized. Rehearsals turned into battlegrounds. When she felt disrespected and tours faced delays when her emotions ran too high. Even though she carried deep pain, her reactions often created chaos that overshadowed her incredible gift. These intense moments built a reputation that made her unforgettable, not just as a singer, but as one of gospel's most unpredictable personalities. 8. Karen Clark. Sheard Karen Clark. Sheard holds one of the most respected voices in gospel, yet behind the polished image were many stories of pressure, disagreements, and emotional distance. People close to her said she often held in frustrations until they exploded during stressful sessions. Her gentle public personality did not match the intensity she showed when dealing with creative control, contract issues, or decisions she felt were unfair. Producers described moments when her calm turned into coldness, especially when she felt misunderstood or pushed too hard. Even within her famous family, whispers of tension followed her for years as the complexities of success brought out strong emotions. Karen's need for perfection made her extraordinary, but it also created walls that made working with her difficult for those who didn't match her energy. These hidden conflicts became a quiet part of her story, showing a woman who balanced kindness with a toughness that only insiders truly experienced. 7. Donnie McClurkin. Donnie McClurkin earned global respect for his voice and ministry, but many people who worked with him described a personality that carried intense judgment, strong opinions, and a tendency to clash with anyone who disagreed. His strict views on lifestyle, music, and faith led to arguments with fellow artists who felt his approach lacked compassion. Behind the scenes, musicians talked about tense rehearsals, where he demanded absolute control and corrected people sharply in front of others. His emotional speeches often spilled off stage, creating conflicts that spread beyond his church walls. Donnie carried deep trauma, and that trauma sometimes showed through anger, frustration, and sudden mood shifts that affected entire teams. These powerful traits shaped his reputation as a man who could inspire millions while still struggling with the heavy storms inside him. 6. Yolanda Adams. Yolanda Adams' smooth voice and calm stage presence made millions love her, but people behind the scenes often spoke about a personality far stronger and colder than her public image. Insiders said she carried herself with a level of confidence that sometimes crossed into distance, making coworkers feel shut out or dismissed. During negotiations, she pushed hard for control, and when things didn't go her way, her tone shifted fast. Musicians described moments when she walked out of rehearsals, cut collaborations short, or delivered sharp corrections that left the room uneasy. Even though she inspired so many, her private world held intense boundaries, and she did not allow anyone to cross them. That firmness created misunderstandings and tension throughout her career. Her talent lifted her to greatness, but her personality created a barrier that made working with her challenging for people who expected warmth instead of steel. These contradictions created a complex reputation that quietly followed her through the gospel world. 5. Tasha Cobbs. Leonard Tasha Cobbs. Leonard became one of the biggest names in modern gospel, but her fast climb came with behind-the-scenes turmoil. Producers and singers said she brought a powerful, commanding energy that sometimes overwhelmed everyone in the room. Her perfectionism pushed her to challenge every note, every arrangement, and every decision, which often turned simple recording sessions into hours of stress. Some choir members admitted she could be blunt, direct, and unwilling to accept input from anyone if she believed her vision was right. As her fame grew, so did the whispers about conflicts tied to song ownership, writing credits, and creative direction. That strong personality helped her build a massive platform, yet it also created friction with artists who felt overshadowed or unheard. Her journey shows a woman who poured her entire soul into her music while battling the intensity of her own expectations. Those intense traits shaped her public image and left a mark on everyone who worked beside her. 4. Dorinda Clark-Cole. Dorinda Clark-Cole's electric voice made her unforgettable, but her behind-the-scenes temperament added another layer to her legacy. People in the industry said she carried a fierce drive that made her push hard, speak sharply, and react quickly when she felt something was wrong. Studio workers recalled moments when Dorinda stopped sessions mid-song because a musician played one wrong note. Her bold personality led to loud disagreements over arrangements, business deals, and performance decisions. Even within her family group, the Clark sisters, her strong opinions sparked conflicts that sometimes lasted for months. She carried a mix of brilliance and intensity that made her both inspiring and difficult to challenge. Her determination helped her survive the pressures of fame, but it also created a trail of stories involving emotional outbursts and tough corrections. These traits turned her into one of gospel's most powerful yet controversial personalities, proving that greatness often comes with a storm behind it. 3. BeBe Winans. BeBe Winans brought elegance and soul to gospel music. But insiders said his personality was far more complicated than the polished image fans saw. He faced lawsuits, public arguments, and intense disputes with industry partners who accused him of being controlling, demanding, and difficult to negotiate with. Stories circulated about business disagreements that escalated into personal feuds, leaving relationships strained for years. Even family collaborations weren't free from tension, as his strong opinions clashed with creative ideas. Around him, people who worked closely with him described a man who expected loyalty, perfection, and unquestioned respect. And when those expectations weren't met, the atmosphere shifted instantly. These conflicts added a rough edge to his legacy, creating a mix of admiration and frustration. His voice may have carried warmth, but his personality carried fire, shaping his journey in gospel music in unforgettable ways. 2. Marvin Winans. Marvin Winans earned respect for his preaching, singing, and leadership. But his strict, no-nonsense personality made him one of the most feared figures in gospel circles. Choir members said he demanded absolute discipline and perfection, and anyone who broke his rules felt the consequences instantly. He corrected singers publicly, dismissed musicians without hesitation, and controlled church operations with a firmness that left many feeling intimidated. Even other artists admitted they were careful around him, knowing he could switch from calm to stern in seconds. These strict standards created a long list of quiet conflicts, from choir disputes to business arguments involving his family's famous music legacy. People admired his strength, but they also felt the weight of his intensity. Those who crossed him often found themselves pushed out of projects or silenced completely. His leadership shaped gospel culture, but his tough personality made him one of the hardest men to stand beside. 1. Pastor John P. Key. John P. Key's talent shook the gospel world, but his fiery personality created some of the biggest controversies the industry ever saw. He grew up surrounded by trouble, and that toughness followed him into his music career. Singers and musicians said he could switch from laughter to shouting in seconds, turning rehearsals into emotional battlefields. He was known for intense discipline, loud arguments, and sudden decisions that changed entire choir arrangements without warning. Stories spread about fights, confrontations, and long-standing grudges that began over small disagreements. Even with his huge influence, many artists felt nervous working with him because they never knew when his temper would flare. His journey also included criminal accusations in his early years, which added another layer to his complicated image. John P. Key became a legend, but that legend came with raw, unpredictable energy that made him the most explosive personality gospel music has ever seen. So now you've seen the side of gospel legends that the spotlight never touched, the pride, the drama, the feuds, and the behavior that shook the very foundations of their holy image. These stories weren't easy to swallow, but they reveal a truth fans rarely get to see. Fame doesn't always create character. Sometimes it exposes it. But here's the real question. Which of these personalities shocked you the most? If you want more deep dives into the hidden, messy, and unbelievable stories behind the stars you grew up listening to, make sure you tap that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on all notifications. Your support keeps these untold stories coming. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.